Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being a part of this session that we have today. On behalf of the Women's Members Excellence Committee and the initiative taken by ICAI, we are we are displaying this webinar with the support of not only the committee members but also our speakers who have agreed to impart not only their knowledge but also their experience. Thank you so much. This session is a part of the web series 10 that we are undertaking, which we have on every Wednesday. So for today's session, we have CA Diti Doshi. So Diti is going to be a part of this the entire session that she is going to take. Just a brief write-up about Diti. So CA Diti Doshi, 7 years a person who has more than 7 years of experience in domestic and international tax. She's associated with Deloitte India, who handles direct and international tax matters. She has a degree in her graduation from the BCom degree and also a degree from Chartered Accountant of India Institute. Diti has been a speaker at various internal and external forums and also has co-authored articles at various platforms and magazines. She's also been a co-author for various chapters in the book entitled Compendium on International Taxation, which was issued by the Chamber of Tax Consultants. Her expertise is in the field of energy, shipping, and consumer. And of course, I do mention that she has a wide clientele, which includes foreign portfolio investors and also NRIs. Apart from the academic interest that she has, she is also interested and finds pleasure in art and sustainable living. And that's what her phrase is. And she believes in a phrase by Roosevelt, who says, believe you can, and you are already halfway there. Over to you, Diti, and thank you for being a part of this webinar.
Thank you, Vijan ma'am. And it is a pleasure to be here. Before I begin, I would like to express gratitude to all the members of the association to give me this opportunity.
Of course, it's always a pleasure to have speakers like you who also, as I mentioned, not only experience but who have great academic interest as well. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you. Okay. So the topic for today is income tax return filing and recent changes for the financial year 23-24. This year was a surprise that the government gave us with the early release of notifications for most ITRs, which came in as early as December 23 and January 24, while these notifications are expected sometime in February and March before the end of the years. So this is also a message from the government that you need to start gearing up soon for this. In fact, the functionalities have also been released on 1st April 2024 itself. Before we understand the changes, let us look at the persons that are covered for ITR filings, which includes all companies, whether foreign or domestic, whether or not earning profit or loss in India, all firms with the same criteria. And for other categories, there have been slab rates based on the maximum amount not chargeable to tax. The important point here is to note that this income for understanding the maximum amount not chargeable to tax will be without giving effect to the provisions of exemptions and Chapter 6A deductions, etc. While that was a general category, the department also specifies specific criteria on which the ITR is applicable, which inter alia includes certain spends such as foreign travel spends exceeding rupees 2 lakhs, electricity expenditure exceeding rupees 1 lakh, certain deposits in the current bank account and savings bank accounts. So in such cases, whether or not there is the income which is exceeding the maximum amount not chargeable to tax, you will be required to file a return in India. Similarly, the question arises for foreign companies. When are they required to file a return? It is when they earn income which is accruing or arising in India, subject to certain exemptions that we will discuss later. An important miss out generally is for individuals who own foreign assets or have signing authorities or beneficial interest outside India, wherein the department has specifically mandated return filing for them. And this is where we as chartered accountants are required to apprise the clients. There are also other criteria such as TDS and TCS requirements of more than 25,000, certain specified assessees, which we are all aware of. While the coverage of ITR filers is high, the exemption is of course low. There are handful of exceptions that are given for from ITR filing. The first one is where an individual is made beneficiary of a foreign asset. However, the income pertaining to that asset is already disclosed in the beneficial owner's return and they are duly filing the same. They are not required to file a return as long as that is the only condition on which the income tax return filing is met. If there is any other income, they are still required to file a return. The next one is where there are certain non-residents earning only specified income like interest, dividend, royalty, FTS, and if the payer has already deducted TDS appropriately on the same. This exempts them from filing a return in India for that year. Specified senior citizens, that is 75 years or more, are not required to file if they only have pension and the related interest income, and they are already filing Form 12 BPA for it. Lastly, an exemption for non-residents which have income from specified AIFs in IFSC, or they have capital gains on specified assets listed on the stock exchange in IFSC, they are exempted from filing a return in India. It is important to note that these exemptions are available only and only if a reassessment or search proceeding has not been initiated against them. If a notice is received, they will be required to file an ROI against such notice. Having looked at the persons, it is important to understand which ITR is applicable for each category of persons. There are in all 7 categories of ITRs. No change is made in the applicability of ITRs for the current year. Let's look at each of them one by one. ITR 1 is for resident individuals with an annual income up to 50 lakh rupees, having only salary income, only one house property, and income from other sources. However, if they indulge in other activities such as a director in a company or they have agricultural income, holding investments in unlisted equity shares, foreign owned assets, etc., and other conditions, they cannot opt for ITR 1 and need to move to the next ITRs. ITR 2 is for those who have not been able to file ITR 1 for the exceptions, such as in annual income more than 50 lakhs, capital gains income, where there is a house property of, they are holding more than one house property, holding any foreign income or asset in abroad, if they are a director in a company or holding unlisted equity shares. However, they cannot have a business or profession from income in India. If there is one, then they need to move to the next categories. That is ITR 3 and ITR 4. Before we discuss ITR 3, let us discuss ITR 4, which is an optional return wherein the option is provided to individuals and HUFs who, if opting for presumptive business and professional income under the specified sections, are required to file ITR 4, or if their total income is less than 50 lakhs. Of course, there are other exceptions that are provided, which is mentioned in the column here. Which brings us to ITR 3, that is like a residuary ITR for all other individuals and HUFs who are not satisfying ITR 1, 2, and 4. A point to mention here is that ITR 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all notified and available for filing on the income tax website. Coming to other categories other than individuals and HUFs, they will be required to look at ITR 5, ITR 6, and ITR 7. ITR 6 is for all companies, including Indian company and the domestic ones as well as the foreign ones who are required to file, obliged to file a return in India due to, and offer their income. However, if these entities are claiming any tax exemptions under Section 11, they need to file ITR 7. And other categories like firms, LLPs, cooperative societies, and local authorities need to file ITR 5. As we speak, ITR 5 and ITR 7 are yet to be notified, while ITR 6 has been notified. So we discussed all the criterias which wherein a person is required to file a return. However, there could also be certain indirect additions to this list. For example, if there is a foreign company who creates a place of effective management in India and the income tax provisions deem it to be a resident company in India, then even in a case where there is no direct income from India, they still fall in the category and need to file ITR 6. While we discuss the specific ITRs, there are due dates mentioned for each of them. The original returns are to be filed in July, October, and November based on their applicability of audit report and transfer pricing. Revised returns and belated returns have been the due dates have now been 31st December, that is 3 months before the end of the assessment year for both of them. And an interesting facility that is now available is the updated return filing under ITRU, which is applicable in case where you need to rectify if there are any errors or omissions in your original or revised returns. And the time limit for all of the above three are done with. There are two due dates that are available in this facility. One is wherein you need to file the updated return within 12 months from the end of assessment year after a payment of 25% additional tax, and 2 years with a payment of 50% of the additional tax. There is no change in the current year for any of these due dates. What happens if you have not been able, or your client has not been able to file ITRs under any of these criteria, is where the department gives you a chance to file an application for condonation of delay for filing the returns. This is at the discretion of the tax department, wherein in case of genuine hardships, for example, an original return had been filed by an individual. However, he missed the deadline of EVC verification and that return got invalidated. In case the authorities believe that there was a genuine hardship and a reasonable cause in this case, they may provide a condonation of delay and accept the original return that is filed by you. This is the time limit for filing this is 6 years from the end of the assessment year, or 6 months from the end of the month in which a court order was issued relating to this matter. So these are the general requirements of filing an ITR. And now let us look at the changes that are notified. Sorry. Coming to the changes that are notified, as we discussed, there is no change in applicability of ITR types for any of them. Individuals and HUFs who were earlier given an option to verify using their DSE now have an additional option to verify their returns after filing using the EVC mode. And as far as the procedure is concerned, ITR 3, 5, and 6 have specific drop downs for selecting the due dates applicable to them for submitting the return. Moving to the basic disclosures, while earlier not all assessees, not all taxpayers would disclose all their bank accounts in India, it is specifically mentioned now that all bank accounts that were held by the taxpayer during the year will be required to be reported in the return of income, with an only exception that if there is a dormant account which has remained dormant throughout the year, the option for choosing the preferred account for refund has been removed. Moving to the next one, There is, as you may be aware, there is an RBI requirement to obtain and quote a specific 20-digit alphanumeric number called the legal entity and identifier, which is to be quoted by all individuals making transactions of more than 50 crore rupees. This is applicable for all NEFT and RTGS payments. Coming to the ITR disclosures, if there is an entity who is claiming refund of more than rupees 50 crores, in that case, they need to specifically quote the LEI number and the date up to which it is valid. As far as the tax audit disclosures are to be made, there are two additional disclosures once again. One is to give the reason why tax audit was applicable to you. For example, if you exceeded the threshold, the sales turnover or gross receipts limit, or if you were opting for it because you did not offer under the presumptive basis. The second requirement is for you to also quote the acknowledgement number as well as UDIN. UDIN until now was you had an option to generate UDIN within 60 days from filing of the form. However, because now there is a difference, the difference between the tax audit date of tax audit report and the filing would be 30 days. There is a requirement to generate the UDIN earlier. With regard to receipts in cash, basically, the Finance Act amended Section 40 AD and 40 ADA, wherein the threshold limits were increased in case the receipts in cash were only to the extent of 5%. To ensure tracking of the tax receipts, there is a specific field in the ITR now to disclose the amount of cash receipts during the year. The next and a very important amendment that we have we had last year were the MSME payments, wherein Section 43BH was amended to allow deductions for payments made to micro and small enterprises beyond specified time limits only in the year of actual payments. While the clients had already started addressing this in their finance procedures and tracking these payments, we as chartered accountants and as auditors are required to also have the onus of identifying specific transactions. For example, what about the provisions that were created for these enterprises, but invoice was not received? Whether or not such deductions were allowed or such disallowances were to be made. Similarly, what about capital expenditures which are being claimed by the client under Section 3236, whether 43B would apply or not? So to arrive at all this, there is some pre-work to be done before filing of the return, and that is where we must be proactive enough to assist the client on this. From the other angle, from the MSME's angle, they are also required to quote registration number that were allotted to them as per the MSME Act. Moving to the next amendments that were under the Finance Act, one was on the taxability of excess or high premium life insurance policies where such excess amounts were chargeable to tax under the head income from other sources. The ITRs are now modified to disclose this amount in the Schedule OS. Similarly, if for unit holders of business trust, where there was a sum received from by the unit holder, there was the amendment was made to tax such amounts, and at the time of redemption, a cost of acquisition was allowed as a deduction against the same. These amounts are also to be quoted now in the Schedule OS by the unit holders. Coming to capital gains, wherein Section 54 allowed certain cases such wherein if the amount of capital gains were required to be applied in specific properties. However, due to certain conditions, they were not able to apply the same. This amount was to be deposited in a special bank account called the Capital Gains Account Scheme. Until now, taxpayers were required to only mention the details regarding amount that were deposited. the ITR now seeks to also mention the date of deposit, the account number, and IFSC for the tracking. IFSC units, that is the gift city in India, has seen a lot of exemptions and benefits from the income tax department to promote the same. With regard to that, there are two amendments. One is where a dividend income from IFSC units was taxable at a lower rate of 10% if these IFSC units were referred in Section 80LA. As the receiver of income, the taxpayer, is now required to disclose such income in Schedule OS under the head Income Chargeable at Special Rates. On the other side, these IFSC units are allowed a deduction under Section 80LA for the as a profit linked incentive, wherein scheduled banks and foreign banks are allowed a deduction of 100% for 10 consecutive assessment years, whereas other IFSC units were allowed 100% in 10 out of 15 years. These as IFSC units are also, apart from the amounts, they are now required to also provide details such as the type of entity and income, details regarding their registration in the IFSC unit, the year in which the deduction is claimed, and to what extent. The next favorite topic for the department, which has several amendments every year, is regarding startups. There are two changes in the startup ITR notifications. The first one is where employees of the startups were receiving ESOPs from the startups, and the perquisites, the value that was earned by ESOPs during the year, was allowed a tax deferral for a maximum period of 4 years. Until now, until last year, there has been a schedule in the income tax return wherein the amount of deferred tax was to be mentioned, and it maintained traceability. However, now, apart from the amount, the employer also needs to mention the PAN of the employer startup as well as the startup's DPIT registration number. From the startups angle, they also have certain additional disclosures to be made, such as date of incorporation of startup, the nature of business, quoting the certificate number, the amounts, etc. The next ones are regarding increased disclosures for contributions made to political parties, wherein these deductions, where a deduction was allowed under Section 80 GGC for the amount. Until now, while the amounts were to be mentioned, the taxpayers also need to now mention other details such as the date of the contribution made, the eligible amounts, as well as the UPI transfer or bank transfer details. So this is a stringent tracking measure from the department. Regarding winnings from online games, a new section was introduced in the Finance Act 2023, wherein a deduction of tax was to be made on the net winnings from online games. These incomes are also to be disclosed in Schedule OS. Certain deductions, certain changes for individuals opting for the subscription to Agni Corpus Fund were allowed certain deductions under 80CCH. ITR requires you to mention amounts eligible for such deductions. Section 80U and Section DD are related to absolute deductions that is available in case of disability or severe disabilities. While earlier only amounts were to be mentioned, now you also need to mention other details such as the nature of disability, the details regarding the previous form filings, that is the Form 10IA that is to be filed before filing the return, acknowledgement numbers, etc. Charitable institutions have also faced a lot of amendments in the last 2 or 3 years and have also been under the scrutiny net. To increase transparency, there have been several changes in the disclosure requirements in the ITR. We've divided it in two parts. The first part, wherein charitable institutions who lose their registrations, or Section 8 companies who again lose their registrations as charitable, will not be granted the exemptions that are available to the charitable trusts, etc. In such cases, they cannot file ITR 7 and need to move to the other category of ITR 5 or ITR 7. Apart from that, a new schedule is introduced, Schedule 115 TD, for reporting of tax payable on the accreted income. That is the income on which they need to now pay tax owing to the loss of registrations. So what you need to mention is the computation of accreted income, the tax payable on the same, as well as the details of the challans for which the tax is deposited. Regarding the entities for which the charitable institutions for which the registration remains, they also have detailed requirements on reporting, such as reporting of inter-charity donations to check the 85% criteria. Schedule J, which talks of investments, which requires reporting of investments and deposits to the corpus and repayment of loans, reporting of exempted portions of the anonymous donations, and several other requirements in the change, which are changes in the ITR 7. The last few changes include aligning with the new regimes that are available to different other categories of people, such as AOP, BOI, and artificial judicial persons, where if they opt for the new regime during the year, they are required to adjust the unabsorbed depreciation and adjust them to the WDV. Schedule DPM pertaining to fixed assets is amended to align with this provision. Similarly, during the year, resident cooperative societies who are opting for new regimes are also required to make such disclosures in their tax return. Uh, so, while these were broadly the changes that are provided in the current year, if we contemplate, there are two types of changes that have been. We can divide the changes in two buckets. One is for giving effect to the Finance Act 2023 amendments, and the second one is to increase transparency from the taxpayers to disclose additional details. For example, when you look at political parties, where earlier only the amount was to be mentioned, you now also need to mention other details such as bank transfer details as well. So definitely, I think the government is going to use a lot of AI measure to track these payments and cover all taxpayers in their net. With increased disclosures and significant reportings, what we need to do is to be proactive for our clients and ensure that in this time of AI, where misouts are easily identifiable, we are able to proactively gather data and ensure a smooth and complete return filing with disclosures. What do we do for that? One is to inform our clients on the specific needs, such as inform them on their consequences of late return filing, the penalties, I inform them that the losses will not be available to them in case of belated returns. The option that they lose out on options of opting for the old tax regime, because now the ITR gives a new regime as the default option, etc. While we inform our client on the points that are to be taken care of, what should we be prepared with is to ensure that early filings are done for the specific forms, such as Form 10EIA, that is the form to opt for the old tax regime, or Form 9A and Form 10 for charitable institutions, which is very important because without these forms, the income tax return remains invalid. Moving to the next, reconciliations. Basically, we need to assist our client with updated reconciliations, that is, the reconciling the incomes with GST turnover, the AIS turnover, and computation turnover. An important point here to note is the AIS statement, which now has a facility to give feedback on whether as a taxpayer you agree with such reportings or not. And from our experience, we have recently seen a lot of notices that are coming up from the department because there have been a change, there have been inconsistencies in the income reported by the taxpayer and what is reported in AIS due to others reporting. So in this case, a special feedback facility is available to the taxpayers, wherein if you do not agree with the reportings that are done in your AIS, you can reject such disclosures and request for deletion of such payments. Why this is important to be done now is that the whole process of rejecting and deletion from the department's end takes time, and if we leave it for the last minute at the time of filing of return, we may not have so much time available to get the same rectified. Similarly, if your clients have huge amounts of TDS and needs a lot of reconciliation, it is important that we start from now. With increased disclosures regarding bank account, we need to advise the client to start collating details in the same. Ensure that the bank accounts are pre-validated on the income tax return, because if you're filing a return and the bank account is not revalidated, you might face a refund rejection and go through the whole process again. Another important action point that we have currently is for the linking of PAN and Aadhaar, and a lot of clients have still not done the same, because of which the PAN becomes inoperative. Now, if the PAN becomes inoperative and you realize it at the last minute, there is a chance that your return may not be filed on time, and that is why we need, as a proactive approach, we need to ensure that the client's PAN and Aadhaar are linked on a timely basis. We've seen several other criteria such as quoting of LEI in cases where the transactions are exceeding 50 lakhs, etc. We need to help the client trace whether such transactions are available and ensure that the LEI is in place before we go for filing the return. Regarding MSME, we have seen a lot of payment, a lot of disclosures, and as on date, what we need to ensure is that the audit report and our tax positions are aligned so that there are no confusions or no mismatches later on at the time of filing return. Different positions, such as for the position for retention money, whether such retention monies are to be reported, etc., need to be started. We need to start segregating them. Charitable institutions again have seen a lot of amendments and disclosures, and it is we've seen a lot of cases where the accounts are not as well organized, which is where the need comes for them to start collating these documents and to ensure that all these all the filings are done on time. We can provide the client with a compliance calendar with specified indicative timelines to comply with the same. Before the return is filed, we need to ensure that the UDIN is generated because it is now a mandatory requirement. The forms for opting old regimes are filed, and the Form 10, which is for charitable institutions, is filed. Lastly, what do we do at the time of filing a return? One is to evaluate our client requirements on the positions to be taken and to ensure that, to give you an example, what happens in case an equalization levy is being paid by a non-resident? There is a controversy on whether such clients are required to file a return in India. There could be certain, like we mentioned on the poem, basically foreign companies who are constituting a poem in India will be required to file a return in India for the first time. So we need to start evaluating positions for their return filing in India. At the time of computations, there have been ensure pick up, there are some transactions which are listed. For example, details of the refund that is adjusted against a demand during the year. Now when you are helping your client file the return, you may not be able to trace such refunds in the bank statement, which is where you need to go back to the income tax portal, which gives you specific details of refund adjustment against tax demands, and you need to offer such refund in your income tax computation, the client's income tax computation. In case of opting for new regimes, you need to ensure that the opening WDVs are adjusted. So there are several miss outs by clients on reporting incomes from cryptocurrencies and other virtual digital assets or foreign income. All these are transactions which are generally missed out, and we need to ensure that we specifically pick them up at the time of computation. Lastly, as a general practice, we have often seen that our softwares sometimes are not updated with the latest utilities on the income tax portal, leading to duplication of a lot of efforts and last minute delays. We need to ensure that our tax return softwares are in place. If you are helping your client file the return in India, ensure that you have a good power of authority in place for filing the return with on their portal. And a very important point here is at the time of preparation of your invoice, where we generally loosely mention that we are helping in filing the return, while what we are actually doing is preparing a computation and not filing the return. So these are some checks that additionally from the changes mentioned in the ITR, you need to be mindful of the same. So this was all about the changes, and it is time, I think, that we gear up, because the government is also has been quick enough to release these functionalities on time, and we need to start gearing up for the tax filing season. Over to you, Bijan.
Thank you, DT, for such a wonderful session. Question answers, there have been no question answers. You have explained, the entire presentation was done so beautifully and explained in so detail. DT, one question I had for you regarding the what adjustments, or how do the adjustments to be disclosed regarding the fixed assets if I am going for the new regime, the tax audit report. If you could tell something more about it.
Sure. So whenever you're opting for the new regimes, you are not the client, any taxpayer is not allowed an effect of the unabsorbed depreciations of the past. In such cases, you need to retrospectively calculate the unabsorbed depreciations from those assets, add it back to the opening WDV. And while this is computational, the ITR some way back earlier, the earlier utilities did not specifically have an option, and there were controversies relating to it, which is why in the current year, the schedule DPM relating to fixed assets has been specifically modified to give effect to this amendment.
Okay, thank you so much.
That clears your question.
Yeah. So it's my great privilege and honor today to extend a vote of thanks to CA Diti Doshi, who has taken her time to share her valuable insights with us today. On behalf of the Women Members Excellence Committee of the ICAI and all the members who are present today, I would like to express a sincere gratitude for enlightening us on this very important subject. I'm sure this has really given us a lot of support, and also DT has seen to it that we are all geared up for the next 3-4 months, and we start filing the income tax returns. I'm sure this is going to be a great help for all the attendees. Thank you so much, CA DT Doshi. I now request CA Ashwini Manerikar to take over and introduce our next speaker, CA Prajakta Thakare. Over to you, Ashwini.
Hi. Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible, everyone? Yes. So I'll
Yes,
just
yes.
continue. So our next speaker is CA Prajakta Thakare. I am really glad to give the introduction of such a great speaker. So she's a chartered accountant working with Ernst& Young as a senior consultant in their technology consulting practice area. She has played a major role in finance transformation projects in this consulting practice area only in for major leading players such as in banking area, financial services, as well insurance industry. She has an experience, a great experience in financial reporting, regulatory reporting, data analytics, which is of course our subject for today, data visualization, data modeling, process improvement, and process performance. So the thing is that I'm really glad to introduce her. Let's understand the insights of the business analytics from her only with the usage of the Excel, advanced Excel technology. So over to you, Prajakta.
Thank you so much, Ashwini.
Hello.
Very warm welcome. Thank you so much. And I'm very grateful to WMEC for giving me this opportunity to share my experience and provide valuable insights to all the women CA members. Uh, I will just share my screen. Yeah. So, our today's topic is business analytics through advanced Excel. So let us see what all we are going to cover today. We are going to cover a brief introduction to business analytics, the Excel functions that we can use for business analytics, data analysis tools which are now available in Excel, pivot tables and pivot charts, data visualization techniques, and some case studies on the basis of what we have learned. So first, let us know more about business analytics. So earlier, the businesses had a lot of manual data. So there was not really a need to analyze data in detail using technology and take decisions. Nowadays, there is so much data because of uh, we have automated all the processes and we store all the data in computers. There is a need to have tools to analyze this data, which will help us take business decisions. So, primarily for the senior management, they need a summarized data which they can look at and take decisions. That is where a role of business analyst comes into play. And there are now business analytics tools which can be used to present the data in a manner which is more understandable for the senior management. So, okay, let us see what is a role of business analyst. So, these tools can be used by business analysts to do data analysis and interpretation. In this, even data cleaning comes into picture, where you organize the data, clean the data, and then analyze it. Then we have financial reporting and forecasting, which is what it is part of our chartered accountancy, where we create the financial reports. That is also done with the help of Excel. Next, it can be used for budgeting and planning. It can be used for risk management strategies and analyzing. Then we have performance monitoring and for process improvement. So, as we were discussing in data management, how advanced Excel can help us to in this whole business analytics. So, Excel can handle large data sets, and most of the businesses are still reliable on relying on advanced Excel or Excel to manage the data. And it is quite convenient, right? We have seen since we were doing articleship also that most of the businesses record the data on Excel, or they from Tally they export the data to Excel, and then that is where they analyze it. So it is very easy to extend the same tool for your analytics purpose, where you create the reports and present it to your senior management. You don't have to purchase an additional tool just for the analytics part. So I'll just walk you through how it can be used, how Excel can be used for business analytics. So for data management, it can be used for data analysis, it can be used. Then there are some statistical tools that we can use in Excel. It can be used for data visualization. It can be used to create different models, like predictive models. We can also create a dashboard which can quickly summarize data, and it can be used for automation. So there are also a few tasks which we can automate through macros in Excel. So let's go through some basic and advanced Excel functions. I'm sure most of us have used Excel in our articleship or in the job that we are currently in. But let's see some basics of it and then some advanced functions which we can use in even day-to-day life. Not necessary, it has to be while preparing some analytics dashboard. So I will start with Excel basics, and I'm sharing some data for your reference. So this is a sample data. It has category of goods and the subcategory sales. This is basically sales data. Let us see. So a basic formula is sum, which I'm sure most of us are aware of. Then we have minimum maximum. So we can calculate which is the minimum quantity sold and which is the maximum quantity sold from above. So formula is very simple, minimum, and then we select the whole data set. Similar is the formula for maximum, where we type max and select the whole data set. Then we also have average. So we can calculate average of the profits that we have done from all these sales. So these are some basic formulas. That is the reason I have just quickly gone through it. Now we have some additional uh, functionalities that we can use here. We have conditional formatting. So if I select all the profit, these are the options that I have under conditional formatting. So for example, highlight cell rules. In this, I can use with this single click, I can highlight cells which are, for example, greater than a certain number. So in this case, let's try greater than 100. So if I write 100 here and press OK, it will automatically highlight the cells which has more than 100 value. Okay. So let us go through other functionalities that we have in this. So we also have top bottom rules. So this can be used to highlight top 10 items. So we can see which uh, sales have been our top 10 profit making sales. Okay. Similarly, we have bottom 10%, bottom 10. Here we have other options also, greater than, less than, between, equal to. So whichever condition we want, we can consider. We also have a new rule option through which we can create a customized condition. So we have some options here. Format only cells that contain sale value between or not equal to. We can give any customized option to format the cells. Okay, one more functionality I would like to highlight is uh, if we want to see a distinct value of all these categories. For example, this is a very small data, but if we have a very big data set and we want to see what are the different categories, we can just uh, go into remove duplicates. So in within data, we have remove duplicates. This will remove all the duplicates that were present and will give us a distinct data of what were the categories that were present. So this helps in analysis when we are working. Okay, then we also have data validation options here. So I'll just remove this. Okay, we can check here. So in data validation, we can set rules that we want to, through which we want to analyze the data. We can, let's see an example. So a validation criteria, we say that we allow decimal numbers. So decimal numbers are allowed to be input here between 100 to 1000, for example. This is the criteria that we have set. Now, in case the user inputs a value which is greater than 1000 or less than 100, there would be an error message, and uh, we can design this message. So as of now, for example, we can say warning, and the error message we have input is invalid value. So let us try if this works now. Now, if I enter 10 value here, it will show me an invalid value, right? The way that we had entered. So the message is as per our instructions. Similarly, we also have one more option here, circle invalid data. So in this case, Excel will circle the data which is invalid as per our parameters. So this is a handy tool that we can use. I'll go back to my PPT. So we have covered these points. These are the conditional formatting uh, types that we saw. Then we have advanced Excel functions that we can use. So we have VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, if statements, SUMIF, COUNTIF, and concatenate. These are some of the advanced formulas that can be used for analysis. Let us go through another data set. Now this is a data set for customer information. I have considered all the data set, but we have phone number and age missing here. So I have another data set which contains the phone number of the customers. If now VLOOKUP is used to present a value from some other source with reference to, in this case, maybe the customer name. So we'll just go through how to use this formula. So we take VLOOKUP. Then we take the lookup value, which we want to look up in the other data set. So in this case, we are going to use contact name. So this Maria is going to be searched in the other sheet. Then we have to consider the table array. From where do we want to pick up this data? So now we will select our data that we are going to use. Then we have to write the column index number from which the phone number would be picked up. So in this case, we count it in reference to the data that we have selected. So as we have selected A and B column, A column denotes first column and B is second column. So now we will mention 2 as the column from which the phone number is to be picked up. And then we have an option to select if we want an approximate match or exact match. In this case, we have picked up the exact name. So we will select exact match. So this is how the phone number would be displayed. Then there is another formula which is HLOOKUP. So this was for vertical data. We had this data, contact data in a vertical form. What if we have data in a horizontal form like this? In this case, VLOOKUP won't work for us. So we'll have to use HLOOKUP. In HLOOKUP, The process is similar. We look up the name of the customer and we select the data. Here we select the row index number. So in this case, it's 2 for us because the age is mentioned in the second column. And we select exact match. So this is how we can fetch the age. So we have fetched data from another sheet, or this can also be used if the data is present in another file, and we can get it at one place. Okay, let's go through if function. So if formula can be used where we can denote a criteria, and if it fulfills, we can ask Excel to show a particular value, and if it does not validate the criteria, it will show what we have instructed. So the use case here we had was there are different projects, and this is the percentage of completion of these projects. If the percentage is 1, which is 100%, we have to show the status as complete. And if the percentage is more than 0, we have to show it as in progress. And if it is 0, then it is not started. If it is completely 0, we have to show it as not started. So how can we show this with the help of Excel? We are using two if formulas here because the first if you see here, it is if C10, which is our percentage for project A. If it is more than 0, we have to show it in as in progress. But also if it is equal to exactly 1, we want to show it as complete. So we have first considered this logical test that if it is more than 0, we have to show it as in progress. If not, so if this logical test is not met, we have it should indicate not started. So basically, if it is 0, then we have written the first condition, which for which the logical test is if it is 1. If it is exactly 1, it should show as complete. And if it is not complete, which is value if it is false, then it should consider the further condition. So Excel will first bifurcate on the basis of whether it is 1 or other than 1. If it is 1, it will show complete. If it is other than 1, it will consider the further statement and pick up value from there. Then we have sum if. So sum we can use when we want to just straightforward add some of the data and we know which data we are adding. But sum if can be used if we have any criteria on the basis of which we want to add the data. So in this case, these are the movies and this is their earnings and year and rating. So we are uh, calculating the sum of the gross earnings basis on the rating. So the rating we have considered is PG. So we need to add the gross earnings of all the movies where the rating is PG. So I'll just walk you through how we can write this formula. So we have written sum if, and then we have to select the range. Now this range is for the criteria. From which range of data do you want to pick the criteria? So we have selected E column, which has all the rating. And then we have to write the criteria. So in criteria, we have selected this PG. So wherever PG would be mentioned in this data set, those rows would be picked up for summing. And then in some range, we have considered C column. So in this, we have to mention the range out of which we want to calculate the sum. So this gives us the gross earnings for rating PG. Similarly, we can use COUNTIF formula where instead of sum, it will give us the count. So in this example, we have used same rating PG we have used, and it will just straight away give us the number of movies in which the rating is PG. So the count is 24. Okay. Next, let's go through some the way in which we can split the data or clean the data so that it can be used in a better way. Sometimes data is present in a way which you can't directly use. Here we have training code, and it is combination of 3 to 4 criterias, and a code is created for simplifying. But if we want to use it for analysis, we will have to split it. So to split it, there are few formulas which we can use. In this case, if we just want the first two alphabets, which denotes the class, we can use the formula left. So left gives us the value of leftmost alphabets or numbers of the given selected text. So in this case, the text that we have selected is training code, and the number or characters we want the number of characters to be selected by Excel is 2. So from left, 2 alphabets of all the data set would be selected. So that is how we get EX here, or WD. Similarly, if we want to select now SF, we want separately. Now that is something in the middle. We can't use left in this case, because if you use left, you will end up getting EX dash SF, not just SF. So for this, we use mid as a formula. We will select the text from which we want to extract the data, and we will select the number of, like, the position of the character from which you want to pick up the data. Now in this case, we have selected 4 because EX dash is 3 and fourth character is S. So from S, we need to select uh, the data and the number of characters that we need to pick up. So we have written 2. Now this is what will return us SF. So we have bifurcated X and SF. Then similarly for year, we have considered 7 at the start of 7 character and 4 characters are picked up. That is how we got the year. And for level code, we have considered right as the formula. So similar to left, we can also use right, and then we can select the text that we are referring and the number of characters that we want to pick up. Now, after we have split this data, it can be used for analysis. So for example, I have level code and the level mentioned against those code, and I have class code and the class description mentioned against it. With the help of VLOOKUP, now I can select the level code separately, and I can pick up the level description from this table, and similarly for class. So this is how we can use some of the tools to clean the data first and then do the analysis. Okay, let us go back to our presentation. So let us look at some tools that we can use for data analysis. So we have these 3 tools: Goal Seek, Scenario Manager, and Data Tables, which can be used. Let us check a practical example for the same. So Goal Seek is pretty interesting. So here we have some data. We have 1 lakh as the loan amount. We have 6% interest rate, and number of monthly payments, we have 60. Now, on the basis of these 3 values, we have calculated monthly payment using PMT formula. But so what Goal Seek helps us to do is, it helps us to calculate the data based on the result. So this is like a reverse calculation. So now if my goal is to have a monthly payment of 1,000, I can only afford to pay 1,000 as an EMI every month. But I want to, now on that basis, I want to check how much loan amount can I get. So the already calculated EMI is 1,933. We will go in data and in what if analysis. And in this, we'll select Goal Seek. Now, in this, we have selected the cell which we want a specific amount for it to be. So we want to set cell C5 to value 1,000, like we discussed. We want the EMI to be 1,000. And the parameter that we want to change, by changing which cell do we want to get this data, is the loan amount. So we have considered we want to change the we want to we want the monthly payment to be 1000 by changing the loan amount. So now GoalSeek will help you to calculate the amount, which is 51,726. That can be, if that is the loan amount, at the current interest rate and the number of payments, your EMI would be 1000. So this can be, though this is a very small example, this can be very helpful when you're preparing large reports or when you're analyzing, budgeting, forecasting. This can be used. Yeah. So similar tool we have is Scenario Manager. In Scenario Manager, you can add a new scenario like the one we saw where we changed the monthly payment, right? In this case, we can change again the monthly payment. So we are just giving a name to the scenario. In the same way, we have to mention the cells that we are changing. Okay, that's it. Let us take, this has only one variable. Let us take another data set. For this data set, if we check the quantity, so I'll just explain. Here we have price into quantity, which is our total revenue. Then we have the transport cost, which is 10% of our revenue. And we have item cost, which is quantity into 20. And we have calculated the profit. So this is our end result. In this example also, we can use GoalSeek. But let us see some examples of Scenario Manager. So here I'm changing the quantity to 500 maybe. I have selected quantity. Yeah. Here I'm entering the quantity as 500. Now this is the new one that I've created, quantity 500. When I click on show, it will show me the revised data with quantity as 500. Similarly, I've created some scenarios earlier, which is, for example, 200 quantity. So it will show me data for 200. 300 quantity will show me the data for 300. So on and so forth. So this can be used for small data sets. Now, if we have a large data set, there is one more functionality that we can use is data table. So here, if I write few of the quantities, we already have 300. So 400, 500, 1000, 1500. So these are the some sample quantities which I'm using for my analysis. And then I consider the profit formula that I have. I select this data set and I go into data table. Here we have taken the column. We have taken in this column quantity. So we will select column input cell as quantity. Now this will automatically give me the profit which I would have against these quantities. So we had considered this profit here, which was against 300 quantity, but the data table functionality will automatically give you against the change in quantity. So in case of 1000 as the quantity, my profit would be 8800. So this can be really used in a large data set where you can just do it with a click of a button. Okay. Okay, next we have is pivot tables and pivot charts. So pivot tables can be easily used for analysis. It is a very quick to use tool. Let us go through sample data. So I have voters data here, state wise, age bracket wise. I have total population, and then population of the citizen of this country. Then we have registered voters and confirmed voters. To insert a pivot table, I will select the whole data and I'll go and insert pivot table. So Excel creates a new pivot table in an additional Excel sheet. So here we have all the columns that we saw in our data, right? And we can use it to create a table and analyze it. So here we have 4 types. So we have filters, columns, rows, values. So using these parameters, we can create a table. So for example, I take state in the rows. So it will show me all the states that was part of our data, and these will be the distinct values. It won't show any repetition. Okay. Then I consider age in my columns. So if this is how I want to represent my data, where I have state-wise columns in age groups in my column, and then I can select the confirm voters and put it in values. So then it will show me all the values of the confirmed voters. The value field that I've chosen, it is mentioned as sum of confirmed voters. Here I can also change the functionality. So in value field settings, I can also make it count. Then it will show me count of, this is already a count, but if it was some other data, it can be used to see the count or the average or maximum minimum of the product. Now, how can filter be used? For example, I only want to see data related to 18 to 24-year-old. So then I can consider age as a filter. So here I would be able to see age. In this, I can select 18 to 24. It will filter the data only for 18 to 24. And then I can add additional columns also. Sorry, in rows I will do it. Yeah. Yeah. So now it is showing me for the age group 18 to 24, the sum of total population and the sum of confirmed voters according to the state. So this is how quickly you can regroup your data or put your data in a specific format in the way you need to present it to the management. We also have one more functionality here that we can use, which is insert slicer. So in insert slicer, it will give us the different filters that we are using. For example, we are seeing age. So in age, it will create a slicer on which you can easily click and the data will change according to what you have selected. So if I've as of now the data is 35 to 44. If I click on 45 to 64, it will automatically consider that as the filter. This is one of the functionalities. Yeah. So we also have some pivot charts. So apart from the pivot table, you can also present this data in a chart format. So let's see one of the examples. For example, I want a bar chart. So there are many formats that are available which you can choose from. For example, I choose this as a bar chart. It will automatically show me the data that we were looking into in a bar chart format. So this makes it further easier to analyze the data and present it effectively. We have data visualization as a separate part in that you'll see the different types of we can create through Excel. This is one pivot tables and pivot charts. Yeah. So now we have data visualization techniques. So these are some of the examples, but we will see the practical examples. The bar chart that we use, this is just a vertical one. So this can be created just selecting the data and clicking on the bar chart option, or a bar chart like this, or a presentation like this. One second. Okay, let us see some of the examples. So here we have some sample data. Let us try a different chart like a 3D pie. So you just have to select the data that you want to represent. For example, I only want to see clicks and dollar per clicks. So then I'll select this data and then I will select the chart, any chart that I want to represent the data in. So there are some sample charts that I have created here. The bar and column charts we have seen. This is the example we had taken in our PPT. If you click on that particular bar, it will also show you the data that it indicates. So this is how it shows the data. Then we have histogram and Pareto charts. So in this, we have few figures according to which the distribution is shown. So this is usually used for statistical analysis purpose. Then we have line charts where a line is used to depict the movement. We have area chart. Yeah. Then we have pie and donut chart. This is also used extensively in dashboards. So on the basis of this data, we can just create, and this can be customized. You can include this text that we have written, or you can include the percentages. So here, if you see chart style, you also have other options of denoting the same chart. Then we have filters also. For example, I want to remove apparels from this. So it will only show other three, or I want to show the revenue, then it will show the revenue instead of the cost. And we have scatter plots and bubble charts. So it will just show all the data in form of a dot on the chart and the movement of those values. Then we have box and whisker charts. Tree maps and sunburst charts. So this is one type of a chart. So there are many examples of, if you can go and insert and just explore, it will also recommend you charts on the basis of the data you have. For example, the first sheet that we had, and you go and recommended charts, it will also give you just examples of the charts that you can use to denote the data. Okay, just a second. Yeah. So let us go through some real life case studies. Before that, I would like to share my own experience where I have used these skills. So I was working as a senior business analyst in one of the client projects that I was working on. And the role usually is to bridge the gap between the business or the senior management and the IT teams in some cases. And in some cases, you have to present the data in a form which the management can easily understand and take the decisions on the basis of that. So, usually the role is that you have to sit with the business users and understand what is the process that they are following or what is the data that they are using and then document it. This is important because not everyone can understand the finance data. It is us chartered accountants who are specialized in this field. Then we have documentation part, which we have to do, and we have to document the as is and to be processes. We also have to speak to the IT and make them understand what we exactly want. So you have to be a bridge between both the parties, and you have to understand some of the technology part also and understand the perspective of the business users as where they are coming from and what is exactly that they need from their data. What is the analytics that they are looking for, or for which decision, what type of data would they require, what would be helpful for them to take a correct decision, or we can say at least a viable decision. So some of the case studies, these are just sample basis, but it can be used to analyze financial data. And we have data from various systems like ERP system, or if the company is already maintaining the data in the spreadsheets, that can be used, and we can clean the data in the format that we want. We can use the pivot tables to summarize and aggregate the financial data. Then we can apply advanced Excel functions. We can calculate some key performance indicators. Uh, on the data that now we have created, we can create dynamic dashboards, and that we can present to the senior management. So this is one of the easiest use case that can be used. Then for forecasting sales, like we saw, we have goal seek, or we have other tool scenario analysis, which can be effectively used for forecasting, budgeting, uh, and further there are many tools which are very statistic driven in Excel, which can also be used. It can be used for budgeting and variance analysis. It can be used for costing, and there is a lot of data which is involved, and that is the reason these tools become very effective to calculate and to show it in a way which is more presentable. So I think this is it from my side. If anyone has any queries, I would be happy to answer.
Hi, Prajakta.
Right.
Yes, before coming to vote of thanks, I would like to just read out the question. We
Yes.
have one of the question in VLOOKUP. Please
Hmm.
show the sheet after dragging the formula for entire column. Do we have to use the dollar and fix the rows and columns from where the answer is being looked up?
Yes. So I will just share the example.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just show it in Excel. So in customer info, for example, we had considered the HLOOKUP formula of age and the VLOOKUP formula of the contact name for the phone number. So now for age, I can show you this is an important part. Let us write the formula again so that it's easy to understand. So HLOOKUP we consider, then we consider the name of the customer. Now, when we are going to the other sheet, we have to select the data from which the values are to be picked up. When we are picking up the data, yes, during the copy paste, the data can shift. So what Excel does is, let us see an example. I have considered this data set, and then I have considered second row to be considered for the values and false. Now, if I straightforward copy paste these values, it will show me NA because Excel shifts the data as we copy paste. So here it was B2 to C93, CN3. But as I pasted it below, it automatically picked up the next value, which is B3 to CN4. And similarly, it also changed from C3 to C4. Here, even though our C column values are going to change as we copy and paste the data, the table remains the same from where we are going to refer the data. So we need to fix this table name. Now in Excel, a way to fix this table name is using the dollar sign. So you can also use F4. So if I click on F4, it will directly consider $2 sign. So, considering a dollar sign before B is same as fixing B as the column that we have selected and 3 as the cell number that we have selected. So if I remove the dollar before 3, it will only keep the column as constant B, and 3 it will keep moving. I mean, it will in the next cell it will be B4. So we have to, because our data is fixed in a fixed position, we have to select $B $3, and similarly CN4 dollar and $4. I mean, so in this way, our data will not move. So let me show this because it has already changed. Let us go in the, yeah. And here after selecting the data, I press F4, which will make it constant. And then when I press enter and then I copy paste the data, it will select all the values. It will keep the data constant. If you notice here, the data is constant in the formula. So the data which we are referring is constant. The value that we are looking up, that keeps moving because we have not used any dollar sign there. Yeah, it's a very good question and an important one. And we can directly copy paste these formulas. That is not an issue. If we follow the the fixing the table name, we can copy paste it, not an issue.
Okay. So one more question is there.
Hmm.
Please teach goal seek formula again. If the
Okay.
time permits, can you just do that?
Yes, we have time today.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'll just explain from the start. So we have loan amount. It was around 1 lakh earlier, or we can say 10 lakh. So this is my loan amount, 10 lakh, and my interest rate is 6%. My number of monthly payments or the number of EMIs is 60. On the basis of this, we have considered the PMT formula where we have calculated the EMI. Now, we want to analyze the data and we want to show the data in a way that my EMI should be 1000. For this, we can go in data and we can go in what if analysis. In what if analysis, we have goal seek. In goal seek, you can define what is your goal or what is your criteria to change the data. So in this, we select the cell of which data you want to change. So I want to change the monthly payment to 1000, or I want the monthly payment to be 1000. So I will mention that cell as C5. I'll mention the value to which I want the data to change. So in this case, if I want 1000, I've considered negative 1000 because our formula is such. So I've written negative 1000. And the cell that I want to change is loan amount. Okay. So then I click on OK. It will automatically show me the loan amount that I can get if I'm ready to pay EMI as only 1000. So let us click on OK. And it has changed the loan amount to 51,725. What we can also do is we can change the number of monthly payments here. So I go in goal seek and this is the monthly payment I want it to be, for example, 10,000. The cell that I want to change is number of monthly payments. So Excel will adjust the monthly payments in a way that your monthly payment comes out to be 10,000. Yeah, so it is considered 138 months. That is how your tenure will change.
Okay.
Yeah, over to you.
Yeah. So one more question from another member.
Yes.
Hi Prajakta, do you have any idea to automate our tax workings?
Tax portals,
Tax workings.
tax workings. Yeah, so
Yes.
when I was working in my articleship, we had created a fixed format with all the parameters that are applicable, and you just have to input the salary amount, or uh, whatever other criteria, deductions, allowances, and it will calculate the tax amount. So this is how exactly the income tax calculator that we have on the income tax portal is designed. You just have to input the compulsory parameters and it will automatically calculate. So that is a very easy process. You will just have to sit once and write all the
Correct.
permutations and combinations that are applicable and give the logic on the basis of formula, and it will calculate. Even for goal seek, even for this, I mean, this is goal seek
Yes.
can also be used in a reverse manner for tax. That is also possible.
Okay. Very well explained. Yes. So I'm just reading out the next question. EMI calculation formula.
Yeah. So here we have PMT as a formula. First, we have considered the rate divided by 12. So we have considered the monthly rate. So 6% divided by 12.
Hmm.
Then we have considered the number of uh, months. In this case, it's 138. Because the formula, if we would have considered number of years, here we wouldn't have divided it by 12. Because it's in month, we have divided it by 12. Then we have percent, we have number of months, and we have the loan amount, which is our PV.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is how it is calculated.
Okay, so one more thing, like, can you
Yes.
just briefly touch upon? So this is again a repetition. Please explain the concatenate function and examples for the same.
Yes. Yeah. So for concatenate, for example, let's see if we have to. Let's consider the city and country for this. So, so can concatenate basically clubs your data together. Now, if I use this formula concat and the country, you can just keep on adding the text that you want to add on. So in this, I've considered country. Then, if I want a space, I will use a double quote, a space, and then close the double quote, and then the city. This will give me. So this is used in names. This can be used in names where you have first name, last name. Then you can club it into full name. There it can be used easily. You can copy paste this and you'll get the data. This is also used for analysis where you want, for example,
Hmm.
so we have filters. We consider a particular country, for example, Brazil. It has all these cities. When I'm using pivot or any other tool or simply a filter, I can only select one of them or multiple. But then if I combine the names, I can directly select, for example, so filter might not be the right option, but basically you can club a data, and then on that club data basis, you can filter the data or you can create a pivot table that further enhances your analysis. It is used for VLOOKUP also to a very large extent.
Okay. So moving on to next question. Please show examples of pivot table with multiple fields and columns.
Yeah, let's take a data.
See if you
Maybe
have
this
ready
will help.
table.
Yeah, we can use this. So the customer data is what we are using now.
Yes.
We'll go and insert and we'll go in pivot table from table or range. Okay. So here, if you click just on the variables, it will pick up as per its understanding. It has automatically picked it up as rows. Company name also it will consider under rows because it is all text. If you click on some value like age, maybe it will automatically sum it up, not understanding that it is actually age, but just because it is a number. Okay. So I've considered contact number, phone number. Now, if I want age as a normal text field and not something on which I want to apply any calculation, I have to consider it as a row. So for analysis purpose, this is just how we are adding it. But let's check how many customers are there in a particular country or in a particular city. So first, let's consider country. So here we have all the countries. Then let us consider the cities. So it will show me respective cities under those countries. Then let us consider the age of people that are part of these areas. So I'll add it as a row. So it shows me that in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, there are 3 people with the age group of 19, 25, 33. This data I can arrange if I go in design. I can go in report layout and show in tabular form. It will separate all the 3 sections. And in this, I can remove this total, subtotal also. This is one of the examples. Then
Okay.
age you can consider in columns, but it will generate a lot of values.
Hmm.
I mean, a lot of columns. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Can we move on to next question?
Yes.
Can you please explain nested if?
Nested if is exactly the same example that we saw. It is 2 if that we have used in the same formula.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So next is just informatory. Thank you, ma'am. The lecture was very extremely helpful. And 1 minute. Ma'am, formula for EMI breakup into principal and interest. Again, a repetitive question, I think, Prajakta, or you need to help on this?
EMI, they have like EMI is calculated. Principal
Yes.
and interest breakup, I'll have to think of. I'm not sure if
Okay.
there is a direct formula. Yeah.
Okay, okay, no issues. Um, can you please explain if and sum if function? This we have already covered, correct?
Yes. Some if also we have.
Okay. So 1 minute now. I'll just check on the next question. How to convert it in presentable Excel format as data coming one under the other if we select multiple columns.
Correct.
This
So
is the
yeah,
question.
what we can do is we can add a new sheet. So in this, that for example, we had seen some to this data. This is the data that we have, and on this basis, we had created this chart. What we can do is simply add a new sheet or even a new Excel file altogether. So here, if I add a sheet and I can move this to this another sheet. And similarly, I can create a dashboard where I have only considered the bar charts or the diagrams that we have, so that only it can be used only for analysis purpose. That can be done. It can be shifted to a different Excel altogether also.
Okay. I'll just check for one more question if it
Yes.
is there. Yes, so other question was a generic one. Can
Hello,
you share
Manisha.
the
How are
PPT?
you? Let me speak. Just
Yes,
to make,
ma'am. Yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
How are
Hello,
you
ma'am.
all? Hope, yeah, all of you to this program. And I am Preeti Saula, Chairperson of Women Members Excellence Committee, and hope everyone is enjoying the session. And happy to see you all. I can see CA Prajakta Thakre, who has taken the session, along with Bijal Shah and Manisha Mange, and Preeti Tarod and Diti Doshi, who has also taken the session on very, very important topic, which is the bread and butter of all chartered accountants, that is income tax returns and the
True.
technology. Now, so friends, it's happy. And one more announcement I want to share with all of you, that we are coming out with independent directors conclave, that is on 6th of June at Institute ICI Tower at BKC, and a very big program. So it's a huge opportunity for the women to become independent directors also. So make mark your calendar and join this. We have made at very, very concessional rate, and it is at Institute at Mumbai. So we have very top speakers who are also been the independent directors. So if you have any dream to become the independent director, you must join this conclave. Again, we are coming out with a very good leadership conclave, that is the Women's Leadership Conclave on 29th of June this year, and that is first time ever conclave, and I wish all of you to see in that conclave. Friends, one of the best conclave for all the CA women, where you will find the opportunity to network globally and professional opportunities, and along with your health and mindful activities. So please join for grow yourself and become the leader. So a lot of new initiatives are being taken as a women members excellence committee, and I'm proud and privileged that all these episodes, Yashaswini and Idol, that is a successful women, what the theme we have given, because all women are successful in their areas, and that is why we want to come and meet all of you very soon on 6th June and 29th June. Please come forward and join the conference, that the biggest conglomerate. So look forward to see you all soon, very soon, in this conference. Thank you very much, and over to Manisha.
Thank you, Priti ma'am, for your inputs and the important announcements you have made. Thank you, ma'am. It was great to hear from you the initiatives what our committee WIEC is taking. Thank you. And I think so. All the questions have been very well answered by Prajakta. So lot of messages are coming for that. The session was very very insightful since we are in on the beginning of the audit season. So it was very great, and many members have asked the PPT of the session. So that I like to inform you
So
that the PPT for the session. Yes, ma'am.
yeah, yeah, we will upload. So all the sessions, all the recordings, video
Yes.
recordings are uploaded. All the
Yes.
presentations also we are going to upload. And
Yes.
friends, we want you also, the participants also, to come and join as a speaker, as a moderator. This is a platform provided to all of you by women for women. So please
Correct.
come forward. We want to see you all as a leader. It is my endeavor to serve all of you the best, and I want you to take and reach to the big, highest pinnacle of the career. So come forward and let us enjoy and let us celebrate this year as a women's year, so that everyone reaches to their dreams in convert to their reality. So please come forward. I want to see all of you. I want to meet all of you. I want to understand from all of you the sufferings what you have gone through and how you have reached to this level. So please come forward.
Thank you,
Yeah.
ma'am. Thank you. Yes, so thank you, Preeti ma'am. You have always been an inspiration to us. So, with this, I want to give a vote of thanks to CA Prajakta. So, it is my honor and privilege to extend the heartful thanks to our esteemed speaker for the insightful and inspiring presentation. Your expertise and depth of knowledge you have shared with all the examples, live examples, data. I would say you have touched upon each and every aspects, business analytics, data analytics with conditional formatting, advanced Excel functions, pivot tables and whatnot. It is like a big list I have to narrate if I want to just jot down. So data visualization techniques, it was very good session by you, Prajakta. So we appreciate your time and efforts you took and just presented such a beautiful presentation. Your contributions are invaluable. We are grateful. And I take that opportunity to give you a vote of thanks. Thank you once again. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you.
Yes.
So I would just like to take 2 minutes. So
Yeah.
if this, if the students were asking with respect to the annual reports, if
Okay.
you go and print this, it is
Okay.
going to come on a plain paper. Okay, it is not going to have the background of the Excel that we usually see. I think you
Correct.
should also be able to copy paste this to the Word file or any other format that you're using. Plus,
Correct.
if you want to know any functionality, it is really helpful and very easy to go to YouTube or Google it and just find it out. It's actually not that difficult. So yeah,
Correct.
that is it from my side. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity and I'm really glad that everyone found it insightful.
It's
Thank you
our
so much.
pleasure. Thank you, Prajakta. Thank you, Diti. Thank you, whole team.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. We can stop the meeting.